going to teach you color theory over the computer and make it fun and not boring. Not boring is kind of key for me. I sat in the university and listened to this one guy talk on and on and on about color theory, and I maybe used about maybe 40% of that, maybe 50%, and I'm being generous. I'm going to show you the top 3 color theories that you'll see most often and explain when you would use them, why you use them, and how you would use them. Along with that is also a downloadable that kind of talks into detail about each one of those so you can take it away and kind of digest it a little bit. Also in that downloadable is a vocabulary list so that you can better understand a little bit of the terms in practical real-world applications. So for example, when somebody says,
"Oh, that's oversaturated,"
well, that just means there's too much color. And what you need to do to that is actually tone it down a little bit by adding a color from the opposite side of the color wheel. Practical application. That's what I teach. Practical applications. And going along with that is what we're actually going to paint. We are going to paint a color wheel, and it's real pretty with a color wheel and an umbrella with a little girl holding it and a dog and a cat. So very fun, very practical, and something that you can keep. Unlike me, when I went to university to take this class that I paid too much for, I painted all these little splotches onto a canvas, and I think the garbage collector collected that one. So this one that I'm going to show you how to paint, you actually get to keep on your walls and use it as a reference at all times. In the painting tutorial itself, I will actually show you step by step, and I'm going to put up a little timer like this, or like this, and tells you, take a pause, you go do this, because I want you to learn, paint, and then repeat. So you're going to have access to this material. You're going to be able to do this over and over and over. And I can tell you, so far I've painted this painting 3 times. And each time is just a little bit different because every time I'm a little bit different. Not that I'm a psycho or anything, but every time is a little bit different. That's part of what I believe in. You learn, paint, repeat over and over for the rest of your life. Every time it's going to be a little bit different. Every time it's going to be a little bit more fun. So if you're ready, let's get started. I'm really excited to show you a color wheel, and I know color wheel is like, woo, can't wait, yay, I know. Here's the thing, when I first started painting, nobody really talked to me about the color wheel and the value of it. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about 3 of the color theories. There are more, but these are probably the ones that every beginner begins with, and they don't even know it. So we're going to talk about them, and that way you can get to know it and why you do it. So once you understand why and how, then you can kind of like start breaking the rules a little bit and develop something that's all your own, or find your own flavor, or at least know what you're looking at when you see somebody else's piece of art. Okay? So the first one that we're going to cover is the complementary color scheme. And the complementary color scheme is where you have a color on the opposite side of the color wheel. So if you break it down, it's basically like looking at reds and greens, yellows and purples, blues and oranges. When to use the complementary color scheme. Now this depends on what kind of mood you want to set. So if you want something to be very vibrant and exciting and just pop out at you, that's when you want to use a complementary color. So for example, in these I have a pop art pet where the primary color is like an orangey red, and then I complemented that with a blue, and that really made the dog pop out. I've also got an emu here, emu with blues and oranges that really made him kind of pop out and look like he's really in dire need of coffee. And that was kind of the look I wanted to go to because emus have that kind of attitude, like in your face attitude, and that was the attitude I wanted to portray. You also have horse laugh. That's another painting that I did where I really wanted the subject to just really kind of pop out, catch your attention, like a horse who laughs at you actually would. So that's why I pick a complementary color scheme, is when I want things to really pop out and be exaggerated in their emotion. The value of knowing your complementary colors and knowing your color wheel is that you're able to select the opposite color really well to create a subdued color. So for example, in this painting I have rocks. And let me tell you, there are 3 subjects that are really hard to paint. That's rocks, clouds, and people. So in this painting of rocks, I actually used nothing but complementary colors and combined those 2 colors along with white to really create every one of these grays and what's also known as mud. When you start to pull complementary colors and then bring them together in equal parts, it effectively creates a gray or a very, very neutral tone. If you take a little bit of, say, orange and combine that with a big pile of green, then that's going to create a very nice kind of olive colored green, something that we actually see more in nature than you would in, say, like cartoon characters. Cartoon characters, you're using pure color. In nature, you're going to find a mixture of complementary colors to create that subdued look. The key, and I'll go back to this before, and I've said this in another video about your oil paint supplies, invest in quality pigment. And again, I use Gamblin. I don't get paid to say that. I use Gamblin because it's very good quality paint and consistent. The next one that I use is called the analogous color scheme. The analogous color scheme is where it's the colors along the same side of the color wheel. So if you think about colors, we're talking about families of colors. And so if I'm going to be in the red family, that's one analogous painting. I'm going to be in the yellow family, blue family, maybe even green family, the purple family. You see what I'm saying there. You're staying in that same family. So in these examples of an analogous color scheme, what I'm doing and trying to create is a mood of calm, serenity, something that's relaxing. Here you can see like my analogous painting of a blue sky and ocean at night. It's very calm, serene, and that's really just using 3 colors as well. The dog, his name is Buck. He's a seizure detection dog. The owner of the dog told me they wanted coral. That was the colors that they had in their home. When I thought about this dog, I knew I had to pick the same colors on the same side of the color wheel because the dog was so calm. The household was calm. And he had to be because he was a seizure detection dog. In the last painting, the one of the little dog holding the cup, that one I wanted to be calm too because he was a little puppy. He was very thoughtful. And when I think about a puppy, most of the time they're very energetic, they're playful, they're doing all this stuff. Well, this one was very calm and just looked at you like he knew the world was his oyster and he owned it, and he was calm and relaxed because of that. So it was interesting. And so because of that, I wanted calm, soothing colors all around him. And so as you can see, when you choose analogous colors, you're creating a calm and peaceful scene. The third color scheme that I use, and a lot of beginners use, is called split complementary color scheme. And this one you'll probably use and you won't even realize it. So what this is you're using one color and then 2 colors on the opposite side of the color wheel. So in addition to the base color, that first color, you're using 2 colors that are adjacent and complement that primary color. Here's one example of one that I did called Happy Hour. And what I was wanting to portray with this one is not only have him kind of pop out, the sloth pop out, but I wanted the expression and how calm and serene he is. But as you can see, I used some browns that were on his face and then complemented that with the blue sky and the green. And because as you know, sloths, they move so slow that the moss actually grows on them. So I really wanted to call that out, but I still wanted him to be nice and calm. So by playing with the complementary colors on one side and keeping an accent color on the other side, it really created that calm but popping method that I wanted. Now that you've learned the 3 basic color theories based on the color wheel, We are going to go ahead and paint a vibrant color wheel using only 4 colors and get to experience the beauty of painting in oils. Before we get started, go ahead and pause the video to sketch your girl with an umbrella. The reference material is on the second to last page of the Color Theory for Beginner Oil Painter Guide. In this painting, we're only going to use 4 colors. We're going to use cadmium, yellow medium, alizarin crimson, French ultramarine blue, and titanium white. For a medium, I have a little bit of Galkyd. So for the first part, I'm going to lay in the yellow, and I'm starting with the yellow because it is the lightest color, and I want to make sure that the yellow stays pure all throughout this. I am going to clean my brush frequently, but I want to make sure that this color is very pure. So I'm going to fill in the first 3 sections of this umbrella. The sections that I'm picking, this is very important in the composition and to ensure that you have the correct color wheel design. So the yellow I'm putting in the upper right. Notice also where I'm going to put the red, and notice where I'm going to put the blue. Please frequently refer to the reference photos that I provide. Next, I did clean my brush. Now I'm grabbing some of the alizarin crimson, and I'm going to lay in the alizarin crimson. The alizarin crimson I'm going to put in the bottom left. And if you go outside the lines, don't sweat it too much. You can always go back over all the white using actual white and clean up your umbrella. Painting the alizarin crimson into the 3 other quadrants. Next, I've cleaned my brush again, and I'm grabbing some ultramarine blue. With the ultramarine blue, I'm also laying in 4 of the quadrants. Next, I've cleaned my brush, and I'm actually pulling out some of the highlights using some of the mineral spirits or Gamsol. Way I can start to see where the veins of the umbrella are again. Grabbing some of the cadmium yellow and French ultramarine blue, I'm going to start making some of my green. Starting with the darkest first. Also notice that how translucent the colors are. We are going to go over this again to make them stand out more. Grabbing some more yellow, I'm going to make the next color. One thing that I do with my color mixing is I never mix all of it into the same pile. I want to make sure that there are different gradations of that color. Let's just make that darker green just a little bit darker. And we'll make the secondary green just a little bit darker as well. And pulling out the veins again, make sure that you clean your brush really well. And you're just taking a slightly wet brush and pulling out those veins. Next, I'm going to make the oranges. Here I'm taking alizarin crimson and a little bit of the yellow. I'm going to start with the darkest orange first again. And moving into the yellow, so it naturally makes it a little bit lighter. That time I took some of the yellow and just placed it directly onto the orange just to make it a little bit lighter. You don't always have to mix everything on your palette. You can mix it onto the canvas itself. Another thing I'd like to point out is don't hesitate, like I did just then, to actually pick up your canvas and rotate it around. It does make things a little bit easier to paint things in if you're willing to pick it up and move it around. But for the demonstrations of this video, I didn't do that. Instead, I'm just kind of working with what I've got, and I'm keeping it pretty stable. Again, I'm pulling out the veins of the umbrella. Now on your painting, you may notice that there are some pencil marks coming through. Don't sweat it. Again, we're going to go over it again. So now I'm starting to add some colors to the alizarin crimson. I'm mixing my dark purple, and I'm going to start pulling that into the blue as well. If the paint starts to get difficult to move, just be sure to add some Galkyd to it. I'm really cleaning up that blue. I'm basically adding the second layer of that blue, and that's really going to darken that up and start to add some nice depth to it. You can take your mop brush at any time and just gently blend things together. I am wiping off my mop brush after every wipe to make sure that I keep the colors on the canvas very clean. One thing to also note about the mop brush is don't wet it in the mineral spirits. Once you wet it and then you bring the mop brush onto the canvas, it's going to start pulling off the paint. What we're doing is gently moving the paint and really blending it around. Here I'm actually cleaning up some of my edges. You can do this with dipping your brush into the mineral spirits, gently wiping it off onto your paper towel or rag, and then just kind of rub it in just a little bit onto your canvas just to straighten up those little lines. But again, if you really kind of booger it up. Don't sweat it too much because we can go over this, all the white with titanium white, and it'll look really nice with some movement and brush strokes. Add back in the veins where you've lost them. Now I'm going to mix my black. I am taking ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and a little bit of the cad yellow. And mixing it together using my palette knife. What you'll find is you'll need to add more alizarin crimson and more ultramarine blue than you will yellow. And in some cases it may just turn out to very dark purple, and that's totally fine too, because when you go over it the second time, it will appear much darker and a very pretty black. Grabbing some of the Galkyd, I'm going to take my new black, putting a center into the umbrella, and now I'm going to start painting in the silhouette. The painting of the silhouette, I did speed up just a little bit here so that you can kind of see. It's just coloring in the lines pretty much. So I'm going to speed this up and so you can get to the painting yourself. Alright, now you finish that first layer, we're going to go over it again, because that's the beauty of the oils, is with the second layer everything gets more rich, more in depth, and it's just beautiful paint that you can add layer upon layer and get that richness from. So I'm starting with my blues, and I'm just going to use the existing piles that I've already created and go back over my painting with these colors again. I'm going to speed up this process a little bit because I pretty much bet you've got the gist of this right now. We are just adding the same colors on top of our previous layer. out my veins again now that I've added my second layer of paint. And again, all I'm doing is taking my brush into the Gamsol, cleaning it off, wiping it off with a little bit of paper towel, and then gently removing some paint from my canvas. I'm going to speed this up again because I bet you've got the feel for this by now too. Now we're going to add some of the titanium white to our umbrella. What we're going to do is just add a touch of titanium white to each segment of the umbrella. Make sure that you clean off your brush in between each time you touch the white so we keep the white clean. We will blend it here after we've done all this. What this does is it really kind of shows us the shading or the tint that we have or that we can achieve by just adding white to the colors that we've made. Next, we're going to take our mop brush, clean it really, really well, just using a paper towel. Don't get it wet. We're just using paper towel. Now we're going to gently blend each of those titanium white into the colors. And again, scrub off that color. This is the only paintbrush that I'm going to say it's okay to scrub it clean. Every now and then you might get a little hair. Let's pull that sucker out of there. This is also why I recommend buying the cheap mop brushes. That way if you pull a hair out, you don't quite feel so bad about it. And again, for you, don't be afraid to pick up the painting and actually move it around. Now I'm going to go over my silhouette, again with the black that we've already made. And I'm going to speed this process up because I think you'll probably get this. We're just adding some more black to the silhouette, and so it'll really make it kind of stand out and darken up.